Hi guys, welcome to Autobahn and welcome to the new Golf R 8.5. My name is Huub and we are here today in Germany to see the preview of the new Golf R, also the new GTI Club Sport. And well, yeah, here it is. So as you can see, this is the facelifted version of the Golf R. There's quite a few new optical bits on this car, but also technically. And Volkswagen has listened to some of the comments that people had on this car, and especially its interior and some stuff related to that. But the obvious first thing is the new front bumper and the new illuminated logo. This seems to be a big trend in the automotive industry where everybody goes illuminated on the front end. So the new Golf R also has it. So the new logo and the new front bumper. So where before we had these flicks which basically ended up here, they've now extended this and they opened it up much more. I also guess for cooling purposes. So gets a lot more of an aggressive look on the front now. A different headlight design as well. Before we had like a flick coming back up in the headlight. They have changed that a bit. Again, a matrix LED headlight, giving it a bit more of an aggressive look. On the side profile, not much really has changed. A big obvious one here is these optional 19-inch wheels. So these are the Warmenau 19-inch forged wheels. So the forged wheels are quite a bit lighter than the regular 19-inch wheels. You also have 18-inch as an option, or well, as standard on these cars. But these will shave another few kilos of the rotational mass, and according to Volkswagen, also has better cooling for the bigger brakes. And obviously less weight means less rotational mass, better performance overall, better suspension, better feeling in the steering wheel. So a nice upgrade. I have to say I really like them. They're a bit, they give me like motorsport vibes, I guess. So looks really nice. And then on the rear of the car, they've stuck again with the Akrapovic, and we now have these new tail lights. Depending on where you're from, these are optional, but from my understanding in Europe, these come as standard. They look really nice. I think it was optional that they had the dynamic indicators in there, but a nice little touch. And also optional here is the bigger wing for the Golf R. So again, you can have a smaller variant and a bigger variant. This is the optional big one. I think you have to when you're gonna get a car like this. The Akrapovic still is titanium. It still looks the same actually. So still with the perforations right in here. The sound has changed a little bit, but to be honest, it's an OPF back system, so not super noticeable, but still it looks really good. Overall, I guess still a very elegant and pretty car. No big or huge visual changes. I think they did really well with the front end here. The biggest changes on this car are really the interior. So Volkswagen, and especially the R division now, which actually I was pointed out that this is the first time that they have used the R badge, because R is now a different company from Volkswagen. So you could say that this is a different product compared to what is the GTR, the GTI Club Sport. So they've now incorporated the R badge with the optional floating center caps. And now the interior, again, we still have the Alcantara kind of fabric with the stitching, with the blue stitching, and with the nice pattern in here. I really like that. And now the optional carbon. So before the carbon was only a thing on the limited edition Golf R. Now this is it's not standard, but you can just opt for it. So it's a regular option that you can now pick, and you get actual carbon instead of like fake stuff or something like that. So yeah, I mean, that's what you wanna, if you buy a car like this, you want it to be more premium on the inside. But the biggest change right here, I'm gonna close this real quick. The biggest change right here is obviously the infotainment system. So before, Volkswagen received a lot of criticism about this. So before we had this screen that blended, well, basically it blended here into the dashboard, and it was slow. It didn't do what you wanted it to do. We had before also these buttons for the climate control. They were not illuminated, so you couldn't see a thing at night. You had no clue what you were doing. And they've listened to all the consumers who were driving this car and were telling Volkswagen, like, what have you done? So they've updated this. It's basically a completely new system. It's super snappy. It's much more user friendly. They've now also incorporated actually a Golf R in the menu. So you can actually see a Golf R with like the titanium, a carbon feature, with the little details, with the optional wheels. So, you know, they went to the next level with this. I really like what they've done. It looks nice. It's snappy. It just, yeah, it works how you expect a system to work for a car of this day and age. Also now the driving mode still, so much better to configure, much more, I mean, what you were expecting, to be fair. This is what you expect from a car like this. Easy to use, snappy system, not having to go through 5-6 menus before you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is where I want to be. Like, easy and simple to use, climate control, driving modes. They've done good here. So they've now added, from my understanding, this eco mode. So before we only had the comfort, they've now added this extra mode, so it gives a bit more versatility in the sense of how you can individualize the car. And in race mode we have the drift mode and the special mode. So the special mode is basically for Nürburgring use, or that's the setting that they used on the Nürburgring Nordschleife with this car, which makes the dampening softer than when you go to race. Now we actually can change the exterior and the interior engine sound. So a lot of these cars, because they are now OPF systems, they're obliged to run OPF. The sound is not really there anymore because it muffles so much. So a lot of these cars have an active sound system within the car, which is generated through speakers. In this case, what they have done, that is generated through the front windshield. So here the sound is actually generated by a vibration that comes partially through the front windshield, and that can now be changed. So you can turn it up or turn it all the way off. So you can choose if you want to have purely exhaust noise, or if you want to only go for let's say fake noise, if you want to put it like that. I think that's a great thing. Like, you can actually mess around with that. A lot of other manufacturers, you have to deal with it. It's either the way it is, or you're gonna have to do something about it through the aftermarket. But I think they did great with that. So in general, I mean, much better system. And also a big pointer here was the touch controls on the steering wheel. This was a huge issue. So before, when driving, you touch the buttons during driving and it started changing stuff and such, and it was horrible. What they've now done is, it is actually like a haptic touch. So it's actually a, maybe you can hear it. It almost feels like a physical press. It isn't, because it's still just a touch system, but it's actually a physical press on a button. So you're no longer, hopefully you're gonna have the issue where you're gonna be, well, you can see already here, I'm rubbing and it's not changing it, which is great. So they have changed that, and actually on the GTI Club Sport they've changed it to physical buttons, but here they couldn't, and they couldn't because of the R button. So the R button is very important for the R products of Volkswagen, and because this is such a different layout compared to the regular GTIs and the GTI Club Sport models, they had to stick with this and revamp it. So I think they've done well here. So technically on this car, I will pop the hood to have a quick look under it, but not a huge amount has changed. So as you see, still no hood struts on it, so we're gonna have to use the manual guy right here. Still the same EA888, still the 4th generation of this engine. No real mechanical changes from our understanding. It's purely that they've upped the tune, so it now makes 13 horsepower more from the previous generation. So the most powerful production Golf ever released until this point. But aside from that, it's still the same engine basically. Nothing real special here. Like, I don't know if we can pop it actually. No, it's pretty tight on there. So yeah, nothing crazy here. We won't be driving this specific car on public roads, but I'll be taking out a camouflaged version of this car to get a bit of a feel. So I was just talking to Fabio about the exterior and interior sound. So we're now in race mode for the exterior and the interior sound. And what they actually do where other manufacturers don't is the sound is generated not through the speakers, but through the front windshield for a huge part. And that sounds crazy, but it actually does kind of work. So we're now in race for the exterior and the interior. So I'll give you guys a bit of an idea of how it sounds with race mode. So you have like a bit of the metallic-y, rumbly sound, which is obviously generated. But then if we go to eco or comfort in the interior sound, that sound goes away. So it basically, it's almost basically purely exhaust sound now, right? Yeah. So the metallic sound immediately is gone, and it's actually much quieter, but it's purely mechanical in this case. So that is a nice change. I like that they've done that. Okay, so we're now going onto the Autobahn. So this is the first time we're gonna feel a little of what the car really is capable of. We're in Nürburgring mode. What the car actually does is that it goes into a softer setting because the ring has a lot of bumps, of course. And you can immediately feel that the car is really stable over a bump. Yeah, for rotation.
Yeah, you can play a lot with it.
So we are in the Golf R variant right now. So I already took a few corners and such, and you immediately feel the difference being that you have some weight on, or quite a bit more weight on the rear of the car. So especially when rotating, you really feel that 100 kgs in the rear end. It is quite the difference. So we're a little stretch away from an unlimited piece of Autobahn, where we're gonna see what it's capable of doing. What I'm mostly interested by, but I unfortunately cannot show you guys from my point of view, is the settings in the profile. So we have quite a few bits where we can play with. We have the drift mode, the race mode, the individual mode, and the special Nürburgring mode. We're gonna put the car in individual right now, which is already set up by the guys from Volkswagen. So it's gonna be in a sporty mode, and I think with every traction control and such disabled, so it's gonna try to move on us a bit, which we obviously would like to do. So we're now gonna approach the little stretch, and then we'll have a few corners coming up to see what it handles like. We're about to go onto the Autobahn. I'm gonna put the car in special Nürburgring mode to feel the softer dampening. So we're gonna take these two corners. And it does that incredibly well. There's a nice hump over the highway, and with the Nürburgring setting you really feel the compression of the car working so much better compared to when you put it in the race mode. It is a huge difference. So we're now gonna do a timing to see what it does speed wise. To say it does make a huge difference if you go into hardcore race modes or any other mode. The car is so much more bouncy. It's almost like, I don't want to say like a race car, but much more I guess sports car like, very jumpy, much more agile on the nose. Then if we swap over to a softer driving mode, it is a huge, like a monumental difference in a good way. I think they really did a good job there. So this car is equipped with the stock exhaust, because for the Golf R variant you cannot get the Akrapovic, it's not available. So a little less noise, of course. So we have another bit coming up here. Coming up, so let's see. Very blunt, and I also have to say the brakes they feel proper. Do you know, does it have stock brake pads or does it have different brake pads because they're using this on the Nordschleife?
No, normal.
Normal. So normal brake pads on this car, which I have to say feels quite strong. Exit here, so let's see what it does. You really do feel the difference between an R variant and a regular one. You really feel that there is just that much more weight on the back, which gives a different sensation of rotation in the rear end, which is I guess it makes sense because it is a heavier and a bit longer car, but especially on higher speeds you really notice that. So we are almost back at an undisclosed location. So I'm gonna call it quits here for this short review of the Golf R 8.5R variant. Thank you so much for watching, and see you guys at the next one.